Hello everyone, we're the Smith family. Marlon, Melissa, Drake, Maisie, and Deacon. If you've ever been to our house before, you know it can be a bit of a madhouse with a lot of noise and running and yelling and playing and kids and little bodies everywhere, but that's our reality, it's our fun. So Melissa and I are happy to have three beautiful, beautiful children, but before there were three, there was one, and that's Drake, our special firstborn child. And this is just a little story about Drake and how blessed we are to have him.
Let me tell you about Drake. Right? Drake's a lot of fun. Yeah, I think the bad thing is that some people don't get a chance to see his fun side as much because he tends to show that more at home than when we're out in public because he gets a little shy, right? And so sometimes, if you see him at the store, at church, or somewhere, and you come up and talk to him, he'll maybe avoid eye contact or whatever, or maybe just give you a look of what do you want. But at home, he can be pretty talkative and giggly and have a lot of fun and stuff. He can be paparazzi, anti-whatever, when he sees cameras around too, and do anything he can to not look at the camera, right, buddy? Yeah. But me and Drake, we have a good time together, don't we? Yeah, we do. Yeah. He's a fun kid. Just sometimes a little shy out in public. That's right, you tell him, buddy. He's a sweetheart. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's a lot of fun. I know. He loves playing with his brother and sister, and when they run around the room, he just acts silly too. Him and his sister were playing. She called it the booby trap game because she would try to walk by him while he was in his chair, and he'd kick his leg out and try and stop her from going by, right? And and it's funny because sometimes we look at stuff like that and we think, is it just more of a involuntary, twitch or jerk or something? But he did it for a good little bit. So we know he was playing with his little sister and having a good time. So they have fun together. He's a good kid.
When Melissa was pregnant with Drake, those were some of the best days of our early marriage and our time together, and we were terribly, terribly excited to be having our first baby. After knowing each other for so long and now being married and having a life together, we were over the moon to be expecting our first child. And I can remember holding Drake that first time in the hospital and grinning from ear to ear, holding my first child and my baby boy, and such exciting times. And Drake was a beautiful little boy with lots of curly hair and chubby cheeks, and just just a little gem and such a joy for us to have. And so as young parents, I don't think we could have asked for anything more.
I just wanted to describe Drake. I think I have a unique view of him because I'm his mom. He was created in my womb. He is the person who made me a mother. He's my firstborn. He is my heart. He is amazing, really. Given all of his challenges and struggles, he is just a soldier. And he soldiers on every day, fighting for his life, fighting to prove the doctors wrong. He is one of the strongest people I know. I admire him for so many reasons. And he helps me to keep things in perspective. There really aren't any words to describe just how awesome Drake really is and how much of a blessing he is to me, to his father, to his siblings, to his friends and his family, and to even people who've never met him. I mean, his story is inspirational, and I just know that there are big things in store for him. Drake is fun. He's laid back. He is my laid back child. He likes his me time. He likes it quiet. He just likes to chill out. He likes to smile and laugh and do what he wants to do. He's 6. So he likes to be his own person, his own man, his own being. And he's wonderful. He's just wonderful.
Hello, fan.
So you didn't turn for me today, Mr. Fan? I need you some please.
You're awful quiet today, Drakey.
I love you. Say hi, Daddy.
So what's that thing?
Hi, Daddy.
What are you doing? What are you doing, Drake?
Hi, Daddy. So, how did we find out Drake had a condition? He was about 6 months old. I was a little concerned because he wasn't doing things that the book said he should be doing, like sitting up unsupported or really working towards that. The pediatrician reassured me that everything was fine, kids develop at different paces. One day, while I was nursing him, he kind of flinched, and I thought, oh, well, maybe he's finally starting to use his trunk muscles. It was a little weird, but every child is different. I told my husband about it, and he said, okay, well, we'll just watch it. That was maybe on a Wednesday. That Saturday, we were all laying in bed together, and he did it again. And this time my husband saw it, and he was like, that doesn't seem right. Let's call his pediatrician on Monday and take him in. Maybe something's going on. Okay, no worries. That Monday, I called and made an appointment for Drake with his pediatrician for that afternoon. That morning, he started having what we now know were infantile spasms. So it was basically looking like he was just startled, but it happened over and over and over again. And it was exhausting to him. So I called his pediatrician back, and she said, come in right away. So I took him in. Of course, by the time we got to the pediatrician's office, they had stopped. So it was basically me describing them. Unfortunately, or fortunately, he did start to have another episode, and she could witness it for herself. She was alarmed enough that she called, at the time we were living in Tennessee, so she was alarmed enough that she called Vanderbilt Children's Hospital and tried to get him seen immediately.
I remember being at work that day, and Melissa called me while I was at work and just basically said, you know, I knew she was at the appointment, and she called and said, we have to go to Vanderbilt now. And I just remember just kind of being numb, you know, at that point, because I knew it was about Drake. I knew it was about this thing that had been happening, and, you know, just didn't know what we were walking into at that point. So, yeah, the appointment at Vanderbilt was quite the adventure, I guess.
It was.
Life-changing, you know.
It was cold and flu season, so we couldn't go in because they would have had to admit him through the ER. And it being 6 months old and it being cold and flu season, they didn't want to expose him to anything. So our pediatrician worked with the neurology department there and got him admitted virtually. And so the next morning, we took him in. And it was a lot of tests, a lot of questions, a lot of repeating what happened. It was a lot of talking about him, like his birth, how he's been living, how he's been doing, which he had been fine. He was a fat, happy baby. And so, I mean, this was out of the blue. So they did, they did an EEG,
Yeah,
where
'cause
basically they hooked nodes up to his head.
yeah, so lots of and it's interesting to see your 6-month-old child hooked up to all that equipment, you know, that way. But they really wanted to try to get to, okay, what's at the root of these seizures. So they did the EEG to measure his brain waves, and when that came back, they saw a lot of irregularity.
Right.
You know.
He was diagnosed with hips arrhythmia. So that just means that his brain waves were erratic and irregular. And at that point, they diagnosed him with some form of epilepsy. And in order to further diagnose him to understand the underlying cause of the epilepsy, they did an MRI, which again, seeing your 6 month old having to be sedated so he doesn't move during an MRI was difficult,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Yeah, I remember seeing, because I couldn't go all the way in, but just seeing that little body, have to go through the MRI tube was, I mean, it shakes you because, you know, here we were, this happy couple with this beautiful little boy, and then now to have to see him hooked up and in a hospital and doctors poking and prodding and everything is just definitely not what we had expected for him, especially not at that early stage of his life. But he goes through the MRI, and then that's when we really kind of got the most information because they realize, okay, there's some type of epilepsy that's going on that's causing the seizures, but what exactly is it? And when the brain waves or the MRI came back on the scan of his brain, that's when you could very clearly see that there was something different, about Drake's brain. So the normal MRI has a lot of the ridges and folds in the brain and in the MRI, and they're very easy to see. And in Drake's, it was all smooth, and so that's when they could very clearly diagnose him with Lissencephaly. And as you kind of walk through all the information about Lissencephaly, it was all very much what Drake was experiencing. Right at the 6 month mark, they start having infantile spasms. You see the delayed motor functions and speech function and things of that nature. So it all lined up, and that's when we got the word of what it actually was at that time.
And I'll never forget, we were when we got the diagnosis. We were in Drake's room. It was after his MRI, after all the testing. We were just kind of hanging out. My husband and I were standing next to Drake's bed, and the neurologist walks in, and he says, "Your son has brain damage." And I'm like, "What? How does he have brain damage? He's never fallen. He's never been in an accident. I mean, that's impossible. He had a completely normal birth. There's been no trauma, so brain damage is impossible." And then he said, "Your son has lissencephaly." And I don't really know what else was said after that point. I do remember saying, "I have to sit down or I'm going to pass out." So we went and sat down, and he started showing us all this information that he had printed off the internet.
Worst thing you could have done, honestly. Yeah, the stuff that was on the internet and the stuff that's just the raw diagnosis and prognosis for Lissencephaly was not bright at all. I mean, you read things about kids not living past the age of 2, respiratory issues, never have kids, never walk, never run, never talk, never, 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 and it's just all this negativity. And again, here we are all in this moment just hearing all this flood of bad news about our beautiful 6 month old child, and that had to be, I know for you and me, one of the hardest days of our lives to have to hear that about our beautiful firstborn, and it changed everything for us in just that little moment. Yeah, would never want to go back to that day again, and would never wish that on anybody ever in life. But we were surrounded by so much love, our family, our friends, our church, and we carried on, and we got back home with Drake to face our new reality. And early on, it was a lot of trying to figure out what medications were going to work for him, because early in the process, he'd have, I mean, many seizures a day. And again, as they were trying to figure out the best medication for him, there were times where, I mean, it was every couple of hours, and those are some very, very trying times, you know.
Made for very long days,
Definitely.
very long nights. We moved his bed into our bedroom so that we could watch him. And the feeling of helplessness was overwhelming because there was nothing we could do. All we could do was pray, trust God for our baby boy's life, and trust God that He would just keep him safe and protected, and trust God for healing.
Life got a lot different from hospital visits and EEGs and visits to the ER for breathing issues many times, you know, before we could get a handle on things, and special equipment like his side lyre to help him with positioning, and he had a corner chair that he would sit in to help him to sit up and eat and work on his head control. We got him a little pool for inside the house that would work for him, but then we also had physical therapy services that would come by the house when we lived in Tennessee and go through a variety of different things with him. And he had a stander that he would go in that would help him to learn to bear weight on his feet and legs, and other items as well. So it was just a lot of stuff that we didn't really plan on, but it was good for Drake. The hard thing though was the seizures. They came in a variety of different forms, and you talk about something that's tough, you know, to see your cute little child that, you know, their body is going through these changes that they don't understand and they can't control. And in a lot of cases, you know, you can administer medication and you just wait for it to work. There would be times where some of these would, you know, we didn't know if they were causing him a lot of pain unless he kind of made noise and yelled out like he did in this case here, or maybe there were those cases where we could just tell by the look on his face, you know, that something was going on in his body that he couldn't control, and that you know, made him uncomfortable. There's these other times where, you know, he had seizures that, again, they were very rhythmic, and you could just see that he was not in control of it, and it was just difficult for him to manage. So the seizures is really one of the hardest things to see in dealing with lissencephaly. I mean, the global delays and everything else is hard, and not having him walk and not having him be able to say mama or dada, you know, but the seizures that tend to cause him problems, they're very
So
difficult.
this morning, Drake was eating his breakfast and ended up having a convulsive seizure that just kind of came out of nowhere. Probably because he didn't sleep real well. I don't think he fell asleep till probably after 2 o'clock or around 2 o'clock in the morning. So to then have to get him up at around 9:30 or so for church, I don't think he was quite ready to get up. So if he doesn't get enough sleep, he does tend to have a opportunity for a seizure, but it was a pretty bad one, so we had to give him his diastat, and it knocked him out pretty good. So on the way to church, he was limp, tired, like out of it. And he's just kind of starting to come out of it now. It's about 3:30, and hopefully he'll wake up enough here that we can get some lunch in him here before too long. But he's fighting. He's a fighter, right, buddy? He was talking a little bit earlier, so just waiting for him to come out of it, and hopefully he has a better afternoon. You ready? Here we go. Did you like that? You get? So just like that, now Drake has had 3 convulsive seizures in one day, which he never, ever has. I mean, it's been rare that he would have one in a week. So he had one before church, he had one when we got home from church, and now he just had another one. They've been about 3 hours apart. So he's trying to come out of it here a little bit, but, you know, having a hard time. And we've given him all the meds that we really can at this point. So probably not until about 7 or 8 o'clock can we give him anything. So it's been a long evening, but you know, it's funny because when I was talking to my wife about us doing this video, movie, whatever, I really felt God saying that, this is something that would be important for us to do so that as his healing is manifested in Drake, people will really know what God brought him from. And so it's interesting to see that now we're a day into starting to kind of film some of these pieces of the movie, and I really see it, Drake is under attack right now. But we know that God is faithful, and we know what He wants to do with Drake, and we won't be deterred from what we're trying to do for Him, and again, just sharing His story and letting people know, what God can do, and so that they can have faith through whatever situation they might be going through. So we're just praying for Drake, and we'll make it through the night, and he'll have a better day tomorrow.
Despite all of Drake's challenges and ups and downs, he is a happy boy. He is typical in that sense. He's my laid back child. He has a personality of his own. He has his likes, his dislikes. He's just a happy, regular kid. Every parent is excited about their child's first birthday, but for us, it was extra special because of the first year Drake had. That first year had a lot of ups and downs, a lot of challenges, a lot of surprises. But the fact of the matter was is that our son was here, he was with us, he was healthy, and he was happy. And we celebrated that with our whole heart. The turnout for his birthday was phenomenal. We had friends and family from near and far who came to celebrate Drake's life. Lissencephaly is a part of his life at this point. And so we had a special balloon launch for Drake where everyone who attended his first birthday party wrote out their prayers, hopes, and dreams for him, and we sent them up to heaven. So we're waiting for the response from God, and we're trusting that it's going to be something amazing, something that testimonies are truly made of. As a mother, what do I want for Drake? I want everything for him. I want the whole world at his fingertips. I want him to experience life to the absolute fullest. I want him to have a typical childhood. And I feel like he's already missed some of it because he is already 6 and we haven't seen his healing manifested yet. But that doesn't mean it can't happen. It doesn't mean it won't happen. It just hasn't happened yet. But I want him to run, jump, play. I want him to laugh. I want him to be able to express his own opinions if he wants it to be wintertime or summertime. I want him to tell me if he likes the color red or the color blue. I want to just have him here and to grow and to be strong and to use this period of time as a testimony as to how good God is. I want him to grow into a strong man. I want him to have children. I want him to get married. I want him to have everything that a mother wants for her son is what I want for Drake and more. I want him to have the abundant life that God has promised us. And I want him to be everything that people said he wouldn't be and more. And that's what I want for my pooter.
Come on, bud, you're awake. Hey, buddy. How we doing? You ready to get up? No. You don't want to get up yet? Good morning, Drakey. Hey, buddy. How'd you sleep? Let me go get your medicine. So this is Drakey's room, and kind of give you a view of his world. So Drake still sleeps in a crib right now because he tends to roll a lot when he sleeps, so it's probably the safest for him right now to still be in his crib. But he's been making good use out of this one for a little while now. You can see we still have his changing pad on his dresser for when we change his diapers. He's still in diapers right now, size 6 diapers, which will get to be interesting as he continues to grow and it just gets harder to find the right size for him. You can see his AFOs here for his ankles and just proper leg growth, which he wears during the week. And like I said, he has some breathing issues from time to time, so here you can see this is his OpenX inhaler that we've been giving him off and on here because he's been having a couple issues with the weather. But typically twice a day he'll get just this inhaler, twice in the morning and twice in the evening. So that just kind of keeps everything at bay and keeps any issues from happening. But so this is Drake's world. So he has a good time in his room here. Plenty of cool stuff for him to look at and play with in his room. Actually, we bought that for Drake when we were in Hawaii. We had just gotten married. We hadn't even had babies just yet, but we knew we were going to have a little baby boy, and we bought him that little son, to go into his room. And so this is Drake's world. So it's our buddy. Like it says here, love at first sight. It really was.
Drake keeps a pretty busy schedule. He attends school at Kingsley Elementary, where he gets all of his physical therapy, occupational therapy, vision therapy, and other things like that every day. He's got some ongoing doctor's offices, especially the biggie when we take him downtown to Lurie Children's Hospital to see his neurologist. Unfortunately, breathing treatments become a little bit of a frequent thing for us here, and this is pretty common in kids with Lissencephaly because they can't sit unsupported and tend to have breathing issues. It's also one of their biggest medical concerns. A lot of kids with Lissencephaly, pass away from pneumonia and things of that nature, so we try to make sure we stay on top of it. We've gotten a lot better at it than we had in the past, so we don't see nearly as many visits to the ER, but unfortunately, Drake does get a lot of nebulizer treatments, on a regular basis. The good thing about it, though, is that even when Drake has his difficult moments, his little brother or little sister are always there to support him, and they'll lay a hand on him and pray for him or just sit next to him, and if he's coughing, they'll come over and pat him on the chest. So they support him really well from that perspective.
So my little man Drake is having an especially talkative night tonight. He's in a really good mood. Right, Drakey? Mm-hmm. You gonna say hi? Say hi, everybody. Hello, everybody. You hide from the camera. There you go. Say hi. Say hi, everybody. You say hi. What's up, man? Hi, Drake.
At this point, Drake is considered globally delayed, and that basically means that he's unable to sit unsupported, walk, talk, play, and do a lot of things that typical kids do. This requires us to have a lot of extra equipment for him, such as his feeder chair, which helps him sit up in an upright position so that he can eat and interact with the family on a regular basis. Otherwise, he'd be laying down most of the time. We also have wheelchairs for him, pediatric wheelchairs. We try and keep them to look as much like a stroller as possible, but he obviously has a lot of support systems in place with the 5-point harness and supporting it around his hips and under his arms and things of that sort. So at this point, he is globally delayed. But again, we're hoping and praying that one day this equipment will no longer be necessary. Even with all of his challenges, we do have some bright spots. There are so many innovative things out there to help children that are like Drake, and one of those things is the UPSI. We found this contraption of sorts at the Mobility Expo here in Illinois, and we just decided to go ahead and give a demo a try. And this is actually us taking our first walk as a family. And to try and explain how that feels, not just for Drake, but for me and Marlon and for our children, for Deacon and Maisie to be able to take a walk with their brother, for Maisie to be able to stand next to him and look into his eyes, it was indescribable. And these are the moments that we so cherish and we're so thankful for.
So it is now food prep time for Drake. So this is a little sample of what we have going for him. So first of all, in the kitchen, this is his shelf, basically, of all the stuff that we have to kind of keep for him. So over on this side, this is his Sabril medication for his seizure control. He gets 3 of these crushed, or 3.5 crushed in the morning and 3 in the evening time. And this is his clonazepam, also for seizures. He gets one of those every day, Monday through Friday. It usually helps him to kind of stay more alert at school. His Carnitor here, he gets 5 mLs of this in the morning and 5 at night. His Centrum vitamin, which we crush one of these up with his breakfast in the morning. Protein, which goes into his bottles to make sure that he gets enough protein in his diet. He is on a ketogenic diet, so with that comes this Keto Cal 4:1 ratio powder, which goes into his food or into his bottle. Melatonin he gets at night to help him sleep. Doesn't really help a whole lot. He still stays up late sometimes. Then his niacinamide, which he gets 25 in the morning, and then he gets 150 at night. Our very handy mortar and pestle, which has been broken for a little while now. I gotta replace that. Another story. Anyway, his Miralax, so this goes into his food and his bottles. Calcium, which will go into his bottles. He used to take MCT oil, got a little too greasy for him. It's giving him some reflux issues, which he's got a medication he takes for reflux also in the morning. So that was definitely a no there. And then also way in the back here, this is his Diastat, which he gets these for any convulsive seizures that he might have. It's a little bit stronger and more immediate. You'll see there's butter in here also, because with his ketogenic diet, butter is a big part of his diet. So actually right now I'm making some of his meals for the next couple of days, and you'll see what he gets in his meals is basically 12 grams of butter and then 15 grams of Gerber baby food, usually beef flavored. So not a lot of variation in his diet. Unfortunately, because of being on a ketogenic diet, it's very strict, high-fat diet, but he can't have really anything off the table that we eat. Everything that he eats has to be kind of well measured and go according to the diet and according to his medication.
Today is one of those mornings where Mr. Drake is just not a happy camper. And these are kind of tough because you don't know exactly what's bothering him. I don't know if it's because he's tired or hungry. Trying to feed him, but he's not really cooperating. You guys stop playing. Stop. And then the madness ensues. One of the early times where I knew that Drake was going to have a dramatic impact on not just us but other people as well is we were going to do a fast for Drake's healing, and so we just reached out to people that we were close to, that we knew, people that we knew would pray and would take it seriously, and we asked them if they would join in the fast with us. And before we knew it, we were getting emails from people who said that, well, somebody that you talked to is a part of my study group at church or a part of my prayer group, and they brought it to our prayer group, and we're all praying, and it was people all over the country, and we had friends in other countries that had shared it with people, and then we're getting emails that people are praying in China and in Europe and all over the place, and all because of what Drake was going through. And again, for me, it was reassuring on the one end to know that God heard us and God saw us and he knew what was happening, but not only that he was using Drake to touch other people's lives, and people who probably hadn't prayed to God in years, were now opening up that door to pray for Drake, and praying on his behalf. So that was comforting to see that, God was in the midst of what was going on, even in the middle of our struggles. So
It has continued to be with Drake. He has defied the odds. He has lived past the age of 2. He does not have any type of assistance as far as G-tubes for feeding. He's orally fed. No, he can't walk or run or talk, but he communicates. Drake makes his needs known. He lets you know when he's happy. He lets you know when he's tired, when he doesn't want to be bothered with you. He makes his needs known. And Drake is thriving in his own way. And for that, we are so grateful. And he continues to touch lives. He continues to be the catalyst for a lot of people to open themselves up to Jesus. And for that, we are so thankful. It's not easy. I don't want anyone to think that this is easy. It takes a strain on a marriage. It takes a strain on an individual. It takes a strain as a father having to see his son like that. It takes a strain as a mother having to see her son like that. Now Drake has siblings, and as they get older, the questions come about Drake's abilities and disabilities. And why is he different? They come from our children. They come from our children's friends. And so it's not easy, but it's completely worth it. Our Pooter is amazing. And because of him, so many lives have been impacted positively. And for that, we're thankful.
and even more so thankful and optimistic to see that as people have seen what Drake has gone through and what God has brought him through to this point, when the change comes for him, people will know beyond the shadow of a doubt that the same God that healed in the old days, the same Jesus that came and told a man to take up your bed and walk, can still do it today, you know. And even as we sit in church and I hear people, you know, we hear the stories about how he made the lame to walk. That's my son, you know. He can't walk, you know. For all intents and purposes, in his legs, he's lame at this point, you know. But people will see that it's never too late and that God is the one in control. And so that's why we wanted to open our hearts and our story to share with you, you know, Drake's story. And so you can rejoice when we rejoice and when Drake rejoices.
She hears the words, there's no cure, and it all becomes so real. Her little man is in God's hands, and she can't help but feel so scared, impaired, shattered, broken too. All of the dreams she dreamed for him may never come true. She hits her knees, hands in the air, Lord, help me to understand. He's so small. Please speak to me. I need to know your plan. He whispered, wait, all in due time. You must have faith and you will find I have a plan just for Drake, my child, be still. He whispered, wait. He never said it would be easy. He never said it wouldn't hurt. And there's no guarantee how much time we have on this earth. And she may not know it yet, but there will come a day when she's sitting in the stands at his high school football game. He whispered, wait, all in due time. You must have faith and you will find I have a plan just for Drake, my child, be still. He whispered, wait. No, he's never shown up early, but he's never been late. Just be still and wait.